Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, I'm John and I'm back with another video on my channel, Musings of a Marine. I wanted to talk about a topic today and share some personal experience from it. And maybe it'll help out some Western men who are visiting the Philippines or actually want to live there. Okay. One thing that I am going to encourage right from the get-go is that if you move to the Philippines or visit the Philippines and you don't know anybody there, you best find yourself a partner, okay? And I'll tell a story in a little bit about how, at least how it used to work. My original 2 trips to the Philippines, I don't talk about them much. Some of it is, not exactly for everybody's ears, but I'm going to have to touch on that a little bit today too. But my theme for this video is simply this. When you go to the Philippines, if your goal is to hook up with a Filipina, stick with one. And there's reasons for that. And sure, the relationship may not work out, but one at a time, okay? And there's a lot of reasons for this, really. First of all, when you arrive and, like I said, you want to hook up with somebody, and there's 2 reasons for that. One, to beat loneliness. 2, to protect yourself. Because when you arrive in a new country and you don't know anybody and you're kind of out on your own, you could end up going to some places where you shouldn't. Out of curiosity or just plain ignorance. And if you have some young lady with you, and you treat her right, she will keep you away from these places. And that is very, very important to understand. There are still parts of the Philippines where there are pickpockets, and there are people who might even beat you up or kill you for your money. This can happen in any large city, anywhere. I couldn't have picked a better city to have a house in over there than Iloilo. I mean, God must have been watching when I met my wife. Said, you're going to meet a woman who's from a nice, safe, clean city over there, because before then all I knew was Manila, Angeles, Olongapo, and a little bit of Baguio, and Baguio was the only city I went to over there that felt kind of normal, if you will. So you have to be careful about that. But you have to look at it from their perspective too. When they see you, odds are they're struggling in life. They may not be well off financially, and even if they don't ask you for money, which can definitely be a good thing, it doesn't mean that they're doing well for themselves. They're getting by, but obviously they would like more out of life than that. And so you are going to have a young lady who likely is going to want to get serious with you quickly. Okay. And do her a favor, let her know your expectations out of the relationship, what you want out of it, and what your plans are in terms of how long you're going to be there. Do you plan on living there permanently? Are you just visiting and I'm going to head on back to where I'm from in a month or whatever? Be honest with her about that. Because, the greatest success stories for many Filipinos is to get out of the Philippines. I was watching a video a couple of days ago about how many billions of dollars pour into the Philippines from Balikbayans that got out of the country. They got a job in a Western country and were making good money as a nurse or whatever, and they send the money to their family. And, that's another thing that we can mention too, that when you're choosing a Filipina, you want to choose one who has a good family, that is not going to be the type that's going to look at you as the tree that money grows on. So that's not what you're looking for either. And one of the benefits, I've talked about this before, one of the benefits I had when I met my wife, we got married and she was sending money home. This creates a conflict between some Westerners and their Filipina brides, and it never did with me because I had been there twice before and knew, how people lived. Even before I met my wife's family, I knew they probably weren't doing that well. So that circles back to, why these young ladies, when they meet you, if they like you, they're going to naturally have the hope, hey, maybe he can get me out of this situation. When I met my wife, she was a Canadian citizen. She lived in Michigan here, but she was actually a Canadian citizen. And if she was to quit her job nannying for a family, she would have to move back to Canada. She didn't want to move back to Canada, but she didn't want to be a nanny all of her life either. She wanted to settle down and get married with somebody. And so we met, and she is upfront about it to this day that one of the reasons she married me was to get a green card, which she still has. She's not a citizen yet, and that was one of the reasons. Now, if I had been a total jerk to her, she wouldn't have married me. We've been married over 28 years, so obviously we get along well enough. And even though we don't have a lot in common, and guys, you go to the Philippines and you get serious with a Filipina lady, you're going to find out that her interests and yours are going to be quite different and not what you expect, and especially if there's an age gap there as well. So, a significant one. So, anyways, you have to be careful about that and understand it, but that doesn't mean that marriages where the age gap is large don't work. Of course they can. If you're faithful to each other and you love one another, yeah, you can make it work. But I'm doing this video to protect both sides, the Filipina you meet and yourself. Because when you are nice to this Filipina and you treat her right, you don't screw around on her or anything like that, she is going to look out for you. And I'm not just talking about in the bedroom. I'm talking about keeping you away from the best places, from the bad places. I'm talking about making sure you don't pay too much for something. Be it in the cab ride or buying something in a store where the price is negotiable. All right. She is going to look out for you because she knows that if she does and if she treats you right, then you could be that ticket for her to get out of there to a better life, more money, better opportunities, and then she can help her family out. So think about all of those things. There's guys that are going to go to the Philippines and they might still be young yet and still in their sexual prime or whatever, and they want to play the field and bounce around from one Filipina to the next and not get serious. And my friends, I am telling you that is not a good idea. Okay? One thing I know about Philippines is the Filipinos, especially the women, love to gossip. Chismis, as they call it. It runs rampant over there. And if you think you can get away with that and nobody notices, guess what? It ain't happening. Okay? A lot of expats go to Dumaguete. That's not a big city. People know each other over there. They know a lot of people, and if you're going to go over there and act the fool, guess what? You're going to get caught. And I know this for a fact because it happened to me in 1984. When I went to Angeles and to the Philippines for the first time, I met a lady in a bar right next to my hotel. And things were fine. But one day, me and my buddy were at another bar, and there was two young ladies that we got to talking to, and I found one of them rather attractive. And sure enough, back to the hotel we went. Now, all throughout this week, the girl that I was with initially, I would never see her during the day because unlike a lot of bar girls over there, she was from Angeles. She wasn't coming in there from another city and staying in a boarding room. No, she was from Angeles. And so she would just go home and do whatever she would do at the house. And she didn't hang out with me, unfortunately. And I found that kind of disappointing. So I find this other lady, and we go back to the hotel one afternoon just for something, I don't know, to grab something or whatever. And guess who shows up at the door? Guess who knocks on the door and in that particular day decides to come into town and look for me? The first lady. You think somebody tipped her off? Yeah, that's probably a safe bet. Your man is hanging out with somebody else today. Did you know that? I truly believe that's what happened. And it made me feel bad. Obviously, it made both ladies uncomfortable and the one that I was with initially feel bad. A lot of guys, when they leave the Philippines, they will get letters from the lady they've met over there. This lady never wrote me back. As a matter of fact, as the story goes, and I've mentioned it before, she hooked up with another guy shortly after I left and got pregnant with him. So, didn't matter to me in the long run, but at the same time, this lady being from Angeles, she knew where to go and what to do, and if I told her I was interested in seeing something, she knew exactly where it was. And that's the whole point, is you hook up with somebody that you like, and if you stay with them, they'll make sure that you get to see what you want to see. They'll know how to get there or know somebody who knows how to get there. And they can make a great chaperone for you. Not just somebody that can be your sexual partner, but a good chaperone as well. Show you the sights, show you things. You know, when I went to Baguio in 1985, my buddies and we came across these two sisters. I mentioned it before. I didn't know how to get around Baguio. I'd never been there before. And these two sisters showed us around the town, and one of them was very cute, took a liking to me. So that was a nice, enjoyable day. But how nice it was that, you know, I didn't have to go there with my buddies and think, where should we go here? Or how can we find this place? No, they took us to Burnham Park. They took us to Mines View Park, where we could look out at the mountains and see, you know, what a beautiful scene that was, being up there in Baguio. And if we hadn't ran into these two ladies, I don't know if I would have seen any of that stuff, because I didn't even know it existed at the time. And the only reason we were in Baguio is, in reality, was because my one buddy had the hots for a girl there, and so he convinced my other buddy and I, hey, we should go so we can see how beautiful the city is. But he had an ulterior motive as well. So that's the thing. Obviously, when you go to the Philippines, you're not going to necessarily want to hook up with the first girl that you meet or go out on a date with. that's fine. But be honest with her, let her know, hey, this isn't working. And then at least if somewhere down the road she sees you with somebody else, you were upfront with her. You didn't lie to her. Now, I'm not going to say that this is ever going to happen to anybody, but Filipino women, and any of you Western guys who are not familiar with them, they get jealous very easy. They are possessive. And that can be a good thing if you really love that woman, and this way you know you're not going to lose her. But if you're going to go over there and be a player, guess what? You're going to break some hearts, and you just might get yourself broken too. Because, not saying it's going to happen, but what if you've made this lady so angry and she tells her big brothers or whatever about it? You might just find yourself getting your ass kicked. Or, as the story goes, the old butterfly knife comes out. I don't know if that happens anymore, but it certainly did back in the day, where your privates get cut off by the knife. That didn't happen to me, fortunately, when I got caught, but wow. You just never know. Because ultimately, I got back with the first girl the next day, and who knows? Fortunately, she let it go, but she was never going to be serious with me after that. And that's understandable. You want to be with somebody you can trust. So stick with one woman when you get over there, gentlemen. And when you meet somebody that you like, give it a shot with her and her only. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine. But you're being honest with yourself. You're being honest with her. Okay, those women are not there for your sexual pleasure. Do not treat them like that. Okay? You can say, I'm guilty of that. Maybe. But when I was there, I treated any girl I was with back in the mid-'80s like they were my girlfriend, and treated them nice, and took them to nightclubs, and bought them dinner, and all of that. And went swimming in the swimming pool, brought them back to the hotel so we could go swimming in the pool. They weren't just there for my pleasure. They were there to look out for me and be a companion too. So I wasn't lonely. I had somebody to show me the sights as well as everything else. So that's what I'm going to recommend to everybody when you go over to the Philippines for the first time. Yeah, I went over to the Philippines with some buddies of mine both times I went over there in the mid-'80s, but we didn't hang out with each other when we were there. Once we found a lady we were comfortable with, it was adios. And we were on our own with that lady, and we'd maybe meet up again the next morning, but we were on our own, doing our own thing, seeing the sights the way we wanted to on our terms. And it worked out good that way. But it also kept us out of trouble. And so that's the biggest thing. You can get into a lot of trouble in a place you're not familiar with. So I recommend you have yourself a chaperone. And take care of that chaperone, and she'll take care of you. So that's all I wanted to cover today. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it very, very much. Like the video if you think it's good content. Subscribe if you haven't already. God bless and Semper Fi.